They say fear is universal. Every species, every thinking mind, every creature that learns the difference between safety and death eventually learns fear. On Kepler Station, fear had a sound, a low, metallic hum that crept through the hull when something massive moved outside. That was the sound I heard when the alarms failed. Not blaring, not screaming, just silence, followed by that hum. Commander Syleth noticed it a second before I did. Her crest flattened against her skull, bioluminescent patterns flickering from calm blue to warning amber. For a Thrishan, that was the equivalent of shouting. "Human," she said sharply, using my species name instead of my rank. "Run." I was standing in Cargo Ring C, one hand on a diagnostics tablet, the other braced against a crate of medical synth. Around us, dock workers from 6 different species froze in place. Some dropped tools. One of the smaller kith scurried straight for the nearest hatch without waiting for orders. "What is it?" I asked. Sileth's eyes were locked on the external viewport at the end of the ring. The stars beyond were gone, replaced by something that blocked the light entirely. "A Ravener," she said. "A mature one." The word rippled through the station faster than any alarm. Ravener, a void-born predator the size of a cruiser, drawn to power signatures, capable of peeling stations apart like fruit. Every training manual, every safety briefing, ended the same way when it came to them. Evacuate. Do not engage. Syleth grabbed my sleeve, her grip stronger than it looked. "You cannot fight this. You must run. All of you." She keyed the emergency release. Bulkheads began to slide open, pointing the way to escape pods and inner shelters. The dockworkers ran. I didn't. The hum deepened, vibrating through my boots and into my bones. I felt it in my chest, like a second heartbeat that didn't belong to me. Somewhere in the station, power relays screamed as the Ravener's presence disrupted the grid. Syleth turned back to me, disbelief flashing across her features. "Human, why are you still here?" I glanced at the viewport again. The thing outside wasn't just big, it was wrong. A tangle of armored plates and tendrils, its surface crawling as if the void itself were trying to swallow it back. Energy readings spiked wildly across my tablet. Because I saw something else. Kepler Station wasn't emptying fast enough. Cargo Ring C connected directly to the nursery decks, temporary habitats for civilian families waiting transport. The evacuation order would get them moving, sure, but Ravener attacks didn't follow schedules. They followed hunger. And the biggest power draw on the station wasn't the engines or the shields. It was life support. "Syleth," I said quietly, "seal the inner hatches." Her mandibles clicked in agitation. "That will trap you." "I know." Another tremor shook the ring as something struck the outer hull. The lights flickered. Somewhere, metal screamed. She stared at me for a long moment, trying to understand. Thrishans were warriors, but they fought wars with fleets and formations. This, standing in front of a monster that could not be reasoned with, wasn't how they thought. "You are afraid," she said finally. "Yeah," I replied, terrified. "Then why?" I smiled at her, a thin, humorless thing. "Because I can be." I stepped away from her grip and toward the viewport. Behind me, Syleth shouted orders, sealing sections, redirecting personnel. I heard the hiss of bulkheads closing, the thud that told me there was no easy way back. "Good." I tapped my comm. "Engineering, this is Patel. I'm initiating a manual power spike." There was a pause, then a dozen overlapping voices. Confusion. Panic. "Patel, what are you doing?" Chief Engineer Voss barked. "That'll light us up like a beacon." "That's the idea," I said. "Shunt everything non-essential into Ring C. Shields, heaters, the lot." You'll overload. I'll manage. I cut the channel before he could argue more. The Ravener shifted, sensing the change. Tendrils unfurled, brushing against the station's hull. The hum became a roar. I walked forward. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, to run like Silas said. Fear pressed in from all sides, primal and overwhelming. But fear didn't own me. Humans evolved with fear. We learned to live with it, to work around it, to use it. Fear told me exactly how dangerous this thing was, and exactly how much time everyone else needed. I reached the emergency maintenance platform beneath the viewport. From here, I could access the external emitters, the ones meant to broadcast navigation signals. I rerouted them. The station shuddered as power flooded into the ring. Lights flared bright enough to hurt. The Ravener reacted instantly, its massive form twisting, attention snapping fully onto me. Good. Come on, I muttered. That's it. A tendril slammed into the hull, denting the reinforced plating. Alarms finally screamed to life as stress warnings cascaded across my display. I activated the emitters. Energy screamed outward in a focused burst, a concentrated lure broadcasting everything a Ravener wanted: power, heat, activity. I could practically feel the monster's hunger through the deck. The viewport cracked. A spiderweb of fractures raced across the transparent alloy as another blow landed. Atmosphere alarms wailed. I clipped a tether to the railing, just in case, and kept walking. Outside, the Ravener reared back, its full bulk visible now. It was beautiful in a terrible way, an apex predator shaped by a universe that didn't care about mercy. It lunged. The impact tore the viewport apart. Explosive decompression ripped the air from the ring, dragging crates, tools, and alarms screaming into the void. My tether snapped taut, slamming me against the platform hard enough to knock the breath from my lungs. Stars wheeled overhead. The Ravener loomed closer, filling my vision. I triggered the next phase. Deep in the station, emergency protocols kicked in as I forced a partial separation. Cargo ring C groaned as structural locks disengaged. Silith's voice cut through my calm, raw with horror. Human, what have you done? I coughed, gasping against the suit's emergency seal. Bought time. The ring tore free. For a heartbeat, we drifted, the shattered platform, and the Ravener locked onto the brightest thing in reach. Then the monster followed. The station fell away behind us, shrinking as thrusters fired, pushing the remaining structure clear. I watched Kepler's station stabilize, shields flaring back to life signs steadying as power rerouted safely. The Ravener didn't look back. It chased me. Cargo ring C tumbled through space, systems failing one by one. I crawled along the wreckage, dragging myself toward the final control node. The Ravener struck again, tearing massive chunks of metal free. Each impact sent vibrations through my bones. Almost, I whispered. I reached the node and slammed my palm onto the manual override. The ring's emergency core went critical. A surge of energy flared brighter than a star, a violent, desperate pulse that overloaded every emitter, every conduit, every remaining system. The Ravener lunged and vanished in the explosion. The shockwave hurled me into darkness. When I woke, I was floating. Stars drifted lazily above, and below me hung Kepler Station, scarred but whole. Rescue beacons blinked in my visor. Pain bloomed everywhere at once, but I was alive. A shuttle latched onto my suit minutes later. As they pulled me inside, the crew stared at me like I was something out of a legend. Silith was there when I came to fully, her crest glowing a soft, reverent blue. You walked toward it, she said quietly. The monster that even our war fleets flee from. I shrugged weakly. Someone had to. She studied me for a long moment, then inclined her head in a formal bow, a Thrishan gesture reserved for heroes and the dead. Your species, she said, voice filled with something like awe, does not conquer the stars with strength alone. No, I agreed. We just don't always listen when fear tells us to run. Outside the viewport, stars burned on, indifferent and vast. And somewhere out there, the universe had learned a small, important lesson. Sometimes, when you want a monster to stop, you don't run away from it. You walk straight toward it and refuse to back down. In the days that followed, as Kepra Station limped back into the trade lanes under escort, the official reports described a cascade failure, a fortunate chain of automated responses, a rare interaction between a revenue and an unstable power signature. Committees preferred clean language. Clean language meant no one had to explain why a single human technician had been standing in cargo ring C when it detached. But stories don't stay clean for long. I recovered in a medbay overlooking the station's inner garden, a concession to species that needed green things to heal. My ribs were knit with biofoam, my left arm wrapped in a grav sling, and my head still rang when the lights dimmed too quickly. Every day, someone new came to stare at me as if I might suddenly turn into something else. They didn't ask many questions. They didn't need to. The Thrishan Marines came first. Veterans with scarred carapaces and ceremonial markings, warriors who had faced fleets and orbital fire. They stood at attention beside my bed, crests lowered in a sign of respect I hadn't known existed before. We have reviewed the data, their captain said. Your actions saved 112 civilians, 14 crew members, and this station. I tried to wave it off and failed, wincing instead. Anyone would have done it. The captain's mandibles clicked, slow and deliberate. No, he said. They would not. After them came the Kith families from the nursery decks. Small, furred beings with two large eyes and hands that trembled when they clasped mine. One of the children pressed a crude charm into my palm, twisted wire and a cracked glow bead. For monster, she said softly. To keep away. I kept it. Silith visited last. She dismissed the medics and stood by the viewport with her hands clasped behind her back, watching the stars slide by as the station rotated. The silence between us wasn't awkward. It felt earned. You know, she said at last, the ravener that attacked us was old. Ancient, even by their standards. Lucky me, I muttered. She ignored that. It had destroyed 3 colonies before this. Entire habitats gone. Fleets scattered. I looked at my bandaged hands. Guess I picked the wrong snack. Her crest glowed faintly, the Thrishan equivalent of a smile. The recordings of your power spike are already spreading. Other stations. Border worlds. Even the council. That's not great, I said. I didn't do it for attention. I know. She turned to face me fully. That is why it matters. The galaxy, it turned out, had grown comfortable. Advanced shields, automated defenses, doctrines built on probability and retreat. When something too big appeared, civilizations ran and survived most of the time. Humans didn't rewrite that overnight. But we bent it. A month later, I stood in the rebuilt cargo ring C. The viewport was smaller now, reinforced beyond any reasonable need. A plaque had been mounted near the maintenance platform. It didn't have my name. It read, "Here a choice was made." Silith stood beside me as traffic flowed through the station once more, ships docking, crews laughing, life continuing stubbornly forward. You were told to run, she said. Yeah. You walked toward the monster. I thought about that, about fear, and the way it still woke me some nights, heart racing as I remembered the hum in my bones. I didn't walk toward it because I wasn't afraid, I said. I walked because I was. She inclined her head. Then the stories will never be told correctly. That's okay, I replied. As long as the next monster hesitates. Far beyond Kepler Station, deep in the dark between stars, something vast and hungry drifted and paused. It felt it then. Not a weapon, not a fleet. A memory burned into the fabric of the void itself. Humans did not always run. Sometimes they walked forward. And sometimes that was enough.